I bid you good day. I bid you welcome as we explore a new topic, and we will entitle it, What is a Human Being? What is a human being? Certainly this would entail understanding who is the human. But what is the human being? What is the human species after all? Where did it come from? How did it evolve? Who or what created it, and why? What is the path of a human being? Why does it exist? Why does spirit choose it, to embody it, to become it, to walk with it? Why does the earth require it, or support it, tolerate it even? And what of the other species that walk with it, or beside it, and why? A fascinating subject. Rare, perhaps you would agree, to speak of a subject so near and dear to your own being, that it is in fact all about you, and that you would know so little about yourself, so little about what you are. It is fine timing, then, to begin to explore such a concept. We could fill volumes with this subject alone. Books and bookshelves could be filled with this, and yet here we will delve into it enough to pique your interest, enough to bring to you curiosity, some knowing, some self-knowing, and enough for you to then continue the process of self-discovery. For it is in fact one of those subjects that you need or will want to discover some of it, some of your own uniqueness on your own as well. What is a human being then? Well, for the purposes of this discussion, we must say that the human being, in this case, is the earth version of a human being. For there are many other beings that in appearance are very, very similar to an earth human being, but they are organized differently, some slightly more dense than the earth version, and many of a lighter version. So very human-like in appearance, and yet there would be notable differences if you were to look to them elsewhere. Taller, thinner, hands that are arranged a little bit differently, arms that are a little bit longer, a skeletal structure that is also a little bit unique. Different orifices, for instance, it is very human, very earth human. The structure of the ear is a very earth human. And once you become accustomed to viewing other versions of humanity of other worlds, you would note the structure of the ears and the nose, perhaps, and yes, even that of the eyes as well. The mouth secondary, for it is formed in such a way as to offer the speech patterns recognizable upon the earth as well. So the human being that we study then, or describe, is the earth human. An earth human has been upon the earth for a very, very long period of time. Can that period of time be named in years? No, not exactly. For you fathom and measure years and calendars as if they truly existed, and yet time is not truly measured that way. If you were to move backwards in three-dimensional time, even then it would appear to be different, so that time is in fact sequential but not linear. It is in fact moving a little bit like an arc, a little bit like a wave. So depending upon who or what you measure, you could find two beings that appear to be very similar, and yet they would be from different time periods. Some of your carbon dating would date them to very similar time periods, and yet I would tell you that they have come from different time zones. For yes, in the same way that your time changes as you were to move across the globe in an aeroplane, it is also arranged cyclically or dimensionally different as well. So be it then, the human being, the human structure, has existed upon the earth for a very long period of time. Did it evolve or was it created? The answer is yes, for both are true at different periods of time, different aspects of the earth, taking into consideration that the earth is not a linear earth, that again your history is cyclical but not linear. Therefore, at certain times upon the earth, the human being evolved out of the material upon the earth, out of the structure of the earth itself, out of the available material, out of atoms and molecules and material and species that were already present. Yes, the human being evolved to a certain capacity. Later, much later than that, it was made active. It was activated, it was infused with certain characteristics that enlivened it, that accelerated its evolution by leaps and bounds and at light speed, so that it could be inhabited or owned or infused with spirit essence. At other times, the earth changed so dramatically at different times in its history that yes, humanity almost ceased to exist. And yet, because all things have purpose, aspects of humankind from another world, similar enough to what would be compatible for the earth, came to the earth of their own volition, and for purposes of their own unique understandings, came to the earth and inhabited different regions upon the earth, not all of it. Some of these are what you would call superhumans or god-like humans, but it is only because they were differently arranged than those that had been here at other times. And so when you compare the two, compare that they have come from different zones, time zones, historic time zones and dimensional shifts and patterns and doorways, when you were to compare these, it would almost seem to you that one is no more than a cave dweller upon the earth, and the other much, much more advanced, coming from a different time zone or system. One evolved upon the earth, one created upon the earth, others arrived from elsewhere, also to be placed upon the earth. So perhaps you can see then, now and early from this discussion, that there are and have always been different kinds of humans upon the earth. There is not one particular branch that you could say, oh yes, this is far and by far a human being, an earth human being. For now, and particularly at the end of an age, there are many that would be considered hybrid humans, and we will speak of these as well. Now then, at the very end of the cycle, as the earth expresses itself then, it is important to note that there are in fact 7 distinct and different kinds of human beings upon the earth. Now this goes vastly unnoticed by almost everyone upon the earth, because humanity is very now concerned with non-discrimination or with discrimination and prejudice. It is vastly accustomed to noting race, color, distinctions and patterns and creeds and beliefs and countries and boundaries. And so it does not stop to think that, these particular humans may be arranged completely and differently than others, and that their energy simply appears to be similar enough to others. And so while you search the heavens for ships and for extraterrestrials, there are many, many walking among you, the very same kind among you, that are very, very similar to you, but not similar enough. Still, for the sake of our discussion, again, we will consider all of these types then terrestrial humans or earth earth-based humans, for they all share a common interest, and that common interest is the earth and evolution upon the earth, movement through the evolutional patterns of the species, the inhabiting of spirit in a human being living upon the earth, interested in the development of its purpose, the meaning of life as it is expressed upon the earth. That qualifies then to be called an earth human being. Therefore then, of the 7 human types of beings, we will describe these for you and just a little bit about them so that you will know. It will not necessarily assist you in identifying each one that you come in contact with, and yet you will see that the context itself will be somewhat helpful. Now then, the first of these would be called the laborer human. Yes, these perhaps have been upon the earth the longest and longest of time. Now remember, for the sake of this discussion, here we are speaking of the earth human being. We are not speaking of the personality of the spirit being, the consciousness that occupies. We are speaking of the body type, the human being, not the divine being, not the sacred being, not the soul's ancestry that inhabits the being, the human, the very human part, the created, evolutioned aspect of the being. The laborer, then, again, is the oldest of all of the human types of beings upon the earth. The laborer is the one that, yes, scratches out a living. The laborer understands survival. The laborer understands how to build a dwelling, how to live in the earth or upon the earth. In some way, it is the laborer that works for the sake of the earth. In some ways you would say, here is a farmer, here is a rancher, here is a hunter, here is a provider, here is a gatherer of materials, or what it will be. Here is one who knows how to suffer and to eke out a living. Again, remember, we are not simply speaking of the circumstances of life by which one must provide for one's family. We are speaking of the type of human being. And yet, at the same time, we might note that a unique soul in its own capacity might choose this particular laborer aspect of the human being in order to inhabit, if it would serve the common purpose or the meaning of the life that is being called upon or invited in that way. The laborer then has been upon the earth for a very, very long time and has served others. The laborer serves. The laborer serves the earth. The laborer serves the land. It serves the elements. It serves and works with the other animal kind, all of the other elements. The laborer understands how to move in and between the seasons of life. The laborer ages in its own way, in different ways and other aspects, other ways than humans. The laborer often does not live as long. This particular body type does not live as long as others, and yet there are exceptions to this. Of the most ancient and the most ancient of all of the laborers, there are exceptions among these, and they perhaps then live longer and older than any of the other types of humans. But it is a very, very, very small percentage of these. And by contrast, then, the average laborer lives much less. Given, however, the laborer is not very taken or very stricken by dis-ease or by discomfort, for that would go against type. It is the laborer, in fact, that must work or toil in the fields, and so there is little time to become ill, little down time. And so there are few illnesses where these are concerned. Perhaps, yes, some difficulties, particularly with the bones or the joints or the skeletal system, which has evolved in great over time. And so the calcium composition and other elements of the bone itself, owing to the fact that it is so ancient upon the earth, is a bit compromised now. And so you will find these individuals not as tall as others. You will find at times that they also become a little bit bent then of the knee or of the shoulder, given to certain difficulties, but in general there are less illnesses where these. The type of soul that would come to the laborer then is one that is interested in as well being one with the elements, or having a more quiet, introspective life, one that would follow and not lead, one that is a true student or the smaller aspects of life, or wishes to be incognito, or what it will be. But remember, here then we are not speaking of the type of soul that would embody the human being. This, just for coincidence, it is mentioned or offered here. The subject here is what is a human being. And so we describe the different types so that you will know how the human is in fact organized. Next would come what we will call the builder human being. Here is not one that would build empires, not like that, but truly would build a community, would build an idea, would build a structure, the beginning of a structure, the beginning of what could be owned to later, much later, become a city. The builder will work for a common purpose, but only when instructed to do so. The builder then would have a mind of its own, but only in the smaller ways. Of its own, it would only build a small structure, enough for itself. It would not occupy a large amount of land. It would not have a purpose that would serve for a very long time. So on its own, the builder would build a temporary structure, but perhaps in following a higher order, when instructed in how and when and where to do so, it is the builder that would bring about the greater structures. So the builders that have come to the earth then are those that would assist in the building of the larger structures. Yes, even those of pyramids, even those of great tombs, even those of great indoor cities or underground cities. It is the builders that have brought these about. It is these that have built cities out of sand or cities out of stone, and perhaps because they have done such a grand job of it, that many of these are still standing. So yes, there is a very particular kind of human being that is a builder. This is what it does, because it is what it is. It is a product of the earth itself as well. It is almost as old being upon the earth as the laborer. The builder then in some ways evolved from the laborer, found a little bit better way to be or to live over time, another way to represent itself. It is the builders then that made great and beautiful caves, and yes, even many of the cave pictorials that you have seen. It is these that have wondered and evolved. It is these beings that have made great and potent tools for themselves, many of these that are still nearby. It is many of these builders, in fact, that evolved and then spread round the world and became or assisted in the creation of many of the different races. This was some of the root race that was used, perhaps more so than the laborer. The laborer can be counted upon then to keep the races alive, but they would not be ones to distribute themselves round the earth very, very much. The builders then would begin to, yes, transport themselves or carry themselves, because they were to make temporary structures upon the earth as well. The builders then have built most of what you would think are the ancient worlds upon the earth. Most of these, not the great wonders, not great architectural feats, but those things that are known to survive. Builders, in fact, know how to survive. Builders know how to survive catastrophes. They know how to rebuild after floods and mudslides and like that. It is the builders that know the ways of the land. They understand the elements themselves and how they move, for they in fact are made of some of the similar structures. They are organic in their thinking and organic in their doing. They do not require a great deal. They would not be searching for monies or fortunes, but yes, for a particular life or a lifestyle that would allow them to live, to be part of the earth. Here you would find some of the indigenous beings as well, and those that have no idea or reason to give up this indigenous way of being. Beyond the builders are those that we will call the dwellers. The dwellers work with the builders, but perhaps it is the dwellers that would also give direction and purpose to the builders. It is not a hierarchy that we are describing. These are all distinct patterns, spokes upon a wheel, if you like, and who is to say which is the more important spoke, or which is the one that leads the others, for they all turn and all support the wheel, by which it would have no structure if they were not all equal. So this, by far, is not a description of a hierarchy that we bring to you. The dwellers, then, are those that understand structure and understand the need not only for structure or for dwellings or buildings, but for form. The importance of matter, the importance of form, of how structure stands or withstands or evolves, or of how structure assists humanity to grow or to be. It is part of nature itself then as well. Dwellers then are those that would, yes, be considered dwellers upon the earth. Earth dwellers, earth beings, earth humanity, those that would be said to be at home upon the earth. So earth dwellers made themselves to home, made an earth purpose for themselves, decided that they belonged to the earth, that the earth was their mother, that they would support the earth and its becoming what it was, that they would make for themselves this structure, this form. And so the dwellers have always supported structure and form upon the earth then, made it strong, made it potent, made it long-lasting. The dwellers are those that ensure then that the earth will survive or create or recreate itself. If there is an ending, it is the dwellers then that would recreate the next beginning. For in all of these different spokes or classic human beings, each one has its own purpose. Each one has its own ability to ignite life again whenever possible, if possible. There would be each of these human forms, human structures, human beings to reignite life itself. The dwellers then are those that inherit the earth. Here you would, yes, consider these the inheritors of the earth. They have also then evolved upon the earth, and yet at times, as was said earlier in the earlier descriptions, it is the dwellers that at times have been infused with material from the stars, if you like, from starry night material, from dark matter. Their DNA has been infused to once again regain strength or to rebuild within the earth structure. If you will think of the earth in some ways as a grand natural time machine that every once in a while becomes accelerated and every once in a while becomes stalled, then you might see that there are those beings that accelerate and become greater divine and sacred beings, and then there are those who must be restarted, rekindled when the purpose of the earth or its climate shifts and changes, or in fact the great catastrophes upon the earth require that there be more of one type or less of another type of human beings upon the earth. Now, if you will think for a moment of other species and those that at times become extinct and others that at times become accelerated, yes, you must think that the same is true for humanity as well. Now, you dwell upon the earth. You occupy a human body. Then you become who you are. The what? The human body itself. The evolutionary stature of the being that is human. That belongs to the earth. It does not belong to you. It is on loan to you. You borrow a human body. You borrow it from the earth library. You take it upon yourself. It is a garment. You wear that garment. You use that garment. And as you well know, when you will take yourself in spirit, that essence, that everything and nothingness that is experience and light alone, the part that is the garment or the physical part remains with the earth returns to the earth. So here you have, in fact, the way to confirm that the earth human, the species itself, belongs to the earth. It is made of earth material and must be returned to the library, that is the earth. Beyond the dweller, then, we have what will be called, at least for this moment, the student, the earth student, or the human student, or the spirit student, or the soul student. Here you have those that come to explore the earth, to know the earth, creating many different patterns or many different lifetimes, to study the earth, to evolve with the earth for a time, to come to understand how spirit and matter come together. So in the student, it is a very particular standard type of body, if you like, a main kind, a standard body, an average body type or body style, the most average of the most common of all of the body types upon the earth. And this then is the easiest to inhabit. It is a generic form, if you like, and almost any being from any other world could inhabit this type of student human being. Average shape, average size, average health, average intelligence, average capacity to be or to do or to become. Again, as with all of the characters that we are describing here, characteristics that we are describing here, there is exceptions to every category, but here, for the most part, that which is standard becomes generic, so that regardless of the being that comes from other worlds, it would be able to fit this particular human being. And so if we were to say, what is a human being in its most average sense, this is the category that would be most popularized, most mythologically captured in all of your stories and histories. It would be this student of life itself. Most of your lifetimes that you have embodied, that you would remember or recall or were able to, would be in this student capacity, and see how you will think about life lessons and what you have learned and what you have drawn to yourself. Most of your memories would involve these type of bodies and identities that you have had. It is this particular body type that has allowed you to have many different kinds of identity, many different kinds of purposes, problems that you have created, that you have been able to overcome, and like that. Now, beyond that, the next strata, if you like, the next spoke on the wheel, is what we will call the hybrid human. Well, the hybrid human is that which can become the student but accelerated version. Here, one who is well versed in how spirit truly occupies a body, truly fully embodies it. You see, when you fully embody all that a body has to offer, then it can be, well, customized, for lack of another word. And so imagine then that the hybrid being is able to accelerate the DNA, for instance. Perhaps it begins to make sense to you now. It is the hybrid being that can accelerate the quotient of light, or accelerate the ability to learn or to do or to be or to change circumstances. It is the hybrid that is beginning to merge then the left and the right brain, or to understand mind, or to understand God or spirit, to discover the greater consciousness. So it requires a hybridized being to be able to conceptualize next and newer dimensions or ideas, to be able to accelerate light, to be able to study certain subjects of cosmology and metaphysics. And so those that, for instance, may be interested in the very subject matter of this recording, perhaps could be one that understands the hybrid idea. A hybrid then does not mean that it is part human and part extraterrestrial, though an extraterrestrial would be perhaps more interested in inhabiting this body type than another. It would be less invasive to one that has come from elsewhere to choose this body type. And yet if we are speaking of earth humans in that capacity, the hybrid then allows one to become some of this and some of that, to accelerate, to change, to become dimensional, to see beyond this moment, to become the metamorphosis of life itself, to be able to create a body that can recreate a body, to be able to come and go from the body and still maintain its health. This requires also a hybrid state of being. Now, until the last 100, 200 years or so, there were less of these upon the earth. However, now, and the near now, there are many more hybrid beings upon the earth. And along with the students, perhaps we could say that there are almost equal in number, and that as the year begins to evolve, then it is the hybrid being that will begin to overtake the student, particularly for those that see evolution as their next step. Beyond that is what we will call the teacher being, the teacher human being. Now, earlier we spoke of the student, and then we spoke of the hybrid, and now we speak of the teacher. So the teacher human being is that which lends itself to something new. It teaches, it is self-learning, it is a self-taught, self-learning, self-teaching system of a being. So a teacher then in this case is not what someone does. It is not a profession. It is the being itself that is able to teach itself how to evolve. It is able to learn enough about itself in order to change itself completely. And yes, it is able to lead others as well. So in the teacher capacity, the teaching human being is one that is able to accelerate and become much more quick about that as well. It is the teacher that has the ability at times, and if possible, to remember other lifetimes, other understandings of how it has expressed itself before. If one reaches the level of the teacher, there is more activity in the brain, there is more flow, there is more activity in the spinal column that allows energy to travel, to quicken more quickly. So the teacher is able to quicken itself, to quicken its understanding, to bridge gaps between other aspects of itself, to remember perhaps some of its stellar past as well, where it has come from, how it has evolved, how spirit and matter come together. It is the teacher that wonders of the greater subjects as well, and then is then able to master or to manipulate itself. For instance, it would be the teacher human being that is more able to heal itself, to self-heal, you see, perhaps to heal itself from cancer or such, perhaps to remake itself or its ideas, perhaps to change and to reshape its own future, to teach itself that it can in fact remake its own destiny, its own future. So the teacher in fact can teach others, but first it must teach itself. If it is able to first learn enough about itself, about life, about its purpose, about its planet, about its past, then it will have the ability and the capacity to perhaps be a visionary, to speak of the future, to lead or to teach others. If it does not, and here there is a great deal to do with the soul and the spirit and the will power, the power of the will to discover and to search out, then if there is a great deal of this, there will be a leader or a teacher of men as well. If not, well, it is simply the activation or the carrying forward of the teacher aspect of the human being. It continues to be a part of an aspect or a subject of the particular type of human upon the earth. The seventh type of human being, well, we will name it the avatar, the sage, the master. It can be all of this. It is all of this in one. Here, then, we would have, perhaps, those that are of interest or attraction to those that will come from other worlds, from other time periods. Here we have those that have, in fact, mastered the wheel of life and are not so captivated by rebirthing again or simply the next life in the evolutionary scale. Here we have a body type that is available to those that have will and the will to choose, those who are born with a certain knowing, with a certain knowledge, those who have not only a purpose to learn or have certain life lessons upon the earth, but those that are also, yes, born as teachers and masters and guides, as visionaries, as truth seekers and truth tellers, as life changers. And of course, it does not mean that they will be great leaders of men. It does, however, mean that they carry the energy within the body, within the structure, so that it remains alive upon the earth. Remember again, as I remind you yet again, that we are not here speaking only of the consciousness of the soul or a soul's purpose. We are speaking here of the body type, the physical structure, the human being, the architecture of the human being itself, how it is constructed, everything from its blood type to the body styling, to the bone structure, to the position of the eyes, the size, in fact, of the iris, the color of the eyes as well. And here, yes, you will note that there are those of the lighter colored eyes and even those of a slight golden or violet appearance, amber colored eyes, violet colored eyes, and the lighter of the blues and greens and grays as well. It is not that the body type itself gives off this color hue of the eye. It is, in fact, that the awareness within itself lightens the eye. So even if one were born into a more normal colored shade of eye, in this case, the particular consciousness of the being that inhabits it would lighten almost everything, transform, transfigure the body type, so that, in fact, the bones would become not brittle, but in fact of a lighter matter. The bodies, in fact, would more than likely be a little taller, a little bit more lithe, a little bit more lighter, a little bit more agile. They would take in stride some of the concerns of the other human beings. They would walk upon the earth a little bit more lightly, leaving, yes, even lighter footprints behind. It is likely that here you would find those that would also eat in a lighter way, sleep in a lighter way. Here you would notice that there are slight differences among these as well. It is not that they would become recluses or not available to others, but here you have in these beings something that is more distinct, where there is a requirement to be at least alone or individual a little bit more often than with the other types of beings. Again, it is not to say that these must be a leader of men. To say that they are avatars or sages does not mean that they must bring great wisdom to the earth, and it would be an error to think so. It is in fact that they simply carry it. They are carriers of the wisdom itself. They are of benefit to the earth, and the earth is of benefit to them. They are a walking library, as the earth or Gaia is a living library. In their own way, they too bring the stars or the heavens to earth. They carry the library of the heavens lightly upon the earth, so that the earth drinks of their essence, and they, in fact, are also replenished of all that is living light of the earth as well. So here is a very basic, very generalized description of 7 distinct types of human beings upon the earth. And yet we said at the beginning that we are at the end of an age and the beginning of an age, and so all things would change. And so let us see what this transition will look like, so that you will know just a little bit more. The laborer that we described at the outset, that becomes the architect in the new or the next age. The architect of the earth, rather than the one that simply labors in the fields or labors in the denser aspects of the earth. The laborer becomes the architect of the elements themselves, how to recompose them or rearrange them upon the earth. Here is the higher form of the laborer. For when the earth shifts to the new and the next age, all of the types of the body will also shift or raise in frequency and in magnitude. Now, what will happen to the laborer? Well, a certain percentage of the laborer will remain just that. We have spoken in earlier and other discussions of differences between the third dimension and the fifth dimension and how these in fact arrange themselves. Therefore, in this case then, the third dimension remains with the laborer. The higher form of that, or the fifth dimensional or next age being, becomes the architect, the one that plans the elements, the one that restructures the fields, the one that understands how to bring about, again, food or a different kind of food for the hungry, understanding the elements themselves. So the architect carries the laborer within and yet takes that to the next level. The laborer remains in the third dimension and will ever aspire to its next level of the architect. So the architect would be in essence the heaven for the laborer. When the laborer thinks of heaven, it will think of a great architect or a great architecture upon the earth that it will ever study or learn. Likewise, the builder that we spoke of earlier becomes the designer of life upon the earth in some way, not only the builder of a temporary structure, but now the designer of something greater than that, something that can withstand, something that will last, something that is everlasting, something that is greater in its ability to be constructed or to withhold or to be present or to have greater purpose. So the builder then becomes that which has a greater purpose or a greater destiny upon the earth. The designer of life, again, the designer of that which is purposeful upon the earth, and the builder aspires to become that. The dweller that we spoke of earlier as well becomes what we will simply call today the community or the host for the community itself. The dweller becomes that which will sculpt a city or sculpt a purpose, sculpt the most ideal in a community or what is most necessary. Not simply the organizer of a community, but what is beautiful about a community. What is the science and art and purpose, not simply of dwelling or existing, but where is the art to life? There is an art to building a community. There is an art to designing a city. And so the dweller becomes that. In the fifth or the newer generations or the fifth dimension, it is the dweller that would then know how to design. Imagine in the example that I will give you, that even if the dweller will to move inward to the earth, to the inner cities, it is the dweller that understands how then to become a community that builds an altar, a sanctuary, an understanding. It is that which holds for the community itself its safety, its security. If you were to think of Shambhala, Agartha, all of the beautiful cities that you would imagine within the earth, it is because the dweller became the host of the community, aspired and ascended to that. The students of the earth, which we have said earlier were the most common of all, well, they also remain the most common upon the earth as well. But then the higher form of that is the new systems for the earth. As you well know, now, at the ending times upon the earth, it is these systems, in fact, that are disintegrating, that are falling apart, that are deteriorating upon the earth. It is these systems themselves that require restructuring because they will no longer withstand the pressures of the earth itself. So it is this most common man then, strong and common man, that must in fact create new systems of thought, new ideas by which to live for and to spread these ideas so that they become important not to one but to others. So yes, it is very common, this particular earth human, that there are many, many of these that will approve the new system, support the new system, support it from within, the human structure within, and from without as well. Of the hybrid as well, the hybrid being becomes that much more of that. It remains the same, but perhaps there is a shift in that. There is a lighter version of that. So the hybrid human becomes even that much more. Rather than human hybrid, we will say becomes hybrid human. So there is a shift in the quotient of light that is carried within the hybrid, making it even more able to accommodate other beings, other forms, other thoughts. It is the hybrid being then that will accelerate light that much more, perhaps even creating another body style, another body type, and even another blood type as more essence of more pores into the human being. So it is the hybridized being, again, that becomes the higher form of that which is also common upon the earth, but that which also recognizes itself as part of celestial man, sacred man, or divine man. The teacher remains the teacher, but again there is a higher form of teacher. There is the teacher, and then there is the teaching, and there is the memorable teacher. You see, for instance, you may think of Jesus, if you like, and then you may think of the Christ. So here you have both that are teachers, but in different ways. One becomes the higher form, or the recognized form, or the one that is more seen in the world. So in the newer age or the newer style, it is the teacher that is seen, or perhaps it is the new teacher, or the master teacher, or the teacher with the new plan, or the ideal teacher, idealized teacher. So here you have again the higher form. It is important to note that simply because there is a shift in the age and a shift in the time, it does not change everything about man. Here we are speaking of an evolutional structure. And so if you were to be climbing a ladder, and you will then ascend, yes, ascend to the next level, to the next rung on that level, it does not change all things. The ladder itself did not change, and the being itself perhaps did not change. Oh, but perhaps it did, because what is the panorama that it now sees? Everything different, everything unique and whole and purposeful and different. So yes, all things stay the same because all things change, and all things change because some things in fact stay the same. So it is the vision that changes, whether one finds oneself in a stationary viewpoint and the panorama 360 degrees, or whether it is in fact the viewpoint itself that is shifting and moving. Sometimes both are true. Think of the earth, you see. Think of the earth rotating upon its own axis and then revolving round the sun in concert with all of the other celestial bodies, you see, moving at different speeds in different patterns for different purposes. So it is the same with humanity. Do not think then that you exist for one purpose, that there is only one field, one camp of electricity, one camp of magnetic energy, or one purpose to your life, but there is always multitask, multi-dimension, just as there is a multiverse as well as the universe. In terms of the avatar then, the sage and the master, this changes as well. As the teachers that come to the earth, as those energies that guide the earth, they also then direct who and what energies are available to the earth. Here you have that which is the master seed, or the master key is best put this way. Here you have the ability of a being to completely differentiate itself, to remaster itself. Here you have that which would appear as a Buddha or a God, no longer simply a man. So here you have the highest form of the species itself, that which can accelerate itself to almost anything, become almost anything, do almost anything, and would, yes, appear to you to be superhuman, appear to be godlike, appear to be made of another substance, impossibly non-human. It would seem to you that it would have characteristics that could levitate or move or shape-shift into almost anything, and yet again it is still made of earth material, but of the highest material possible, of the highest quality, so that it could in fact become and do something that is human and yet not human. And here you have all of these as possibilities, as evolutions, all part of the plan, all part of the ideal earth and ideals that can be achieved or accomplished upon the earth. How do you determine which of these bodies or body styles you will have life by life? Well, to some degree it determines by how many lifetimes you have had upon the earth, how you have expressed or distinguished yourself in those lifetimes, how close to your purpose you have lived, how far beyond that you have ventured in your vibration, how well you have managed a body or a body type, whether you in fact have contributed to the acceleration of a body or a body type or a certain lineage. You would earn for yourself then the ability to accelerate into the next. You will have accelerated your frequency enough that as you moved closer to the earth, you would automatically embody the next kind of human being, you see? So it is not exactly what you choose in terms of what is hanging in a closet of body types for you to take for yourself. It is what you are most comfortable with. It is what you can aspire to. It is what you can manage. It is what you can hold in your own vibration. For yes, in order to match energy and light, or matter and spirit, you must be able to hold that matter, and you must be able to as well hold your spirit aloft between the two, so that matter and spirit are fused together, so that they are separate but not inseparable, so that you will always know then what is your purpose or what you are aspiring to do. So it is an automatic, semi-automatic then movement of the structure of life itself. You are drawn to that which is the highest and the best and the most accelerated, and as well you are drawn to those that you can assist in their own way as well. All of these different aspects then, all of these different 7 patterns also relate to the earth, to the elements of the earth, to the consciousness of the earth, to the other species of the earth. Each one in its own way accelerates and coincides with the other elements and kingdoms, for they are not completely separate and distinct from one another. In all of this, it is universal law that is presented here, and of course between all of these different races, if you like, as well, between all of these different human beings upon the earth, they are as well separated into the different genders, into man and woman currently. Though I tell you that in the future and in your next age you will have other body types and other genders as well. You will have the masculine and the feminine, and as well you will have the androgynous, and you will have as well that which is endo, or that which is given to both of the sexes as well. So you will have more body types, more body styles, each of these considered normal and not simply anomalies, though in the beginning they will seem to be more as that. So you see, humanity then moves into greater characteristics. The more distinct and the more separate and the more individual they are, the more unique they are, the more they also fall under the idea of unity and unity consciousness in their way as well. Perhaps you have begun to enjoy this topic. Perhaps it has begun to offer to you ideas to explore. It is likely that all of the subjects that we explore together bring to you answers and then more questions, and that is Gaia's way. You see, it is Gaia's way to probe, to provoke, to answer, to bring to you gifts and to lay them at your feet, but as well to call upon you, to stand upon your feet, to look to the celestial heavens and to wonder and to answer and to ask and to walk and to ask and to become even that much more than you are. So yes, all of the topics that we explore are satisfactory in their own way and yet not in others. They tease, they tantalize, they offer much, they invite you to explore. And of course, when you explore on your own, when you ask these questions of your own making, of your own being, you will see that I will speak with you directly and from within you and bring to you other subjects, other solutions, other considerations, as is my way to do. This my way, then, is to awaken. It is to inspire curiosity, to bring about the will to do, to be, to change, to create. So be it, sweet ones. Until the next moment brings us together, let this introduction stand, and let you explore and delve and become even that much more. I bid you good day.